truth is, I am Iron Man.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that I have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. We're going to be looking at Iron Man 227 from 1987. I started with 214, which is the return of David Michelinie and Bob Layton, and we've got the Silver Centurion armor. I do have a playlist. I've got some of the Denny O'Neil, where Rhodey was Iron Man. I've got those in there too, and a couple of the Silver Centurion before Bob Layton and David Michelinie returned. Feel free to check those out in my Iron Man playlist. So we are in the middle of Stark Wars, and we've got Iron Man here taking on the Shield Mandroids and Man to Mandroid. Very nice cover, and I love it. Give up. So let's take a look and see what's up. So we start out with a bit of action. The Last Mandroid is the title, and we've got here, this is a party crasher, looking at Beetle here, and with Iron Man it says, this is a party crasher, and we've got Iron Man taking on Beetle, and there's an auction going on, and we've got Lionel Richie here. He's one I recognize. I don't recognize everybody that's in here, but we've got our credits. David Michelinie or Michelinie. I don't know. Todd McFarlane says Michelinie. Mark Bright is providing the breakdowns. By the way, rest in peace, Mark Bright. And Bob Layton is doing the plot and the inks or finish art in this case here. And so these are supposed to be celebrities for the auction, but like I said, I can only recognize, which I believe to be Lionel Richie, but I just can't put anybody else in there. And then this would be Don Johnson, and then this would be Michael J. Fox here, who are also in attendance. So Iron Man says, I tracked you here, Beetle, and waited, hoping you'd leave so I could take you on the open air. But when you threatened to rip that auctioneer's head off unless he handed over the Picasso, I knew I couldn't wait any longer. And Beetle thinks Iron Man's been on a rampage lately, dusting armored crooks like me left and right. He's out of my league, but I do have one advantage over him. I honestly don't care what happens to innocent bystanders. Lucky for me, as he leaves, and you can see this rubble coming through that he had shot here. He does, as Iron Man heads over to get the rubble. Avalanche heading straight for the auction pavilion, and he opens up a using his refract or whatever, his boosters or whatever, to open up or make a hole in there so that the boulders all fall in. Haven't used my pulse bolt, there we go, in a while, but they should do the trick. Their phase electric charges act like a trip hammer made of lightning. Trench work. Now to finish what I came here for. And so you can see Beetle getting away, and Iron Man catches him. Not so fast, Beetle. You're going, what? Down, and he tosses him, and he lands there. You can see the scunch. Stay back, folks. He could still be dangerous, but not for long. Once this negator pack fuses his circuits, he'll never hurt anyone again. So If you remember, Stark has been hunting everybody that has been taking his armor or components that Justin Hammer had sold here. So these cops or guards arrive, and he goes, "As security guard, gentlemen, your job is protecting the guests. I suggest you consider how hard my armor is, and then weigh the possibility of ricochets." And so they put their guns down, admirable judgment. Now, if you'll excuse me as he flies away. And this guy's like, "But your shenanigans broke this Manchu vase donated by Anthony Stark. It was priceless." And Iron Man says, "And ugly. That's why I donated it." "Ah, well, I'll send a check tomorrow." And so he goes home here, and he goes down. So his home is right there, and goes down the water into a tunnel, basically sneaking into the house here. And there's equipment in there, and Rhodey had to sort of sneak it in a little bit, but he didn't have much trouble because they're looking for Iron Man, but they're not really looking for Iron Man components here. So we get a bit of exposition that Justin Hammer had stolen his technology and sold it. And so he's looking for villains. He feels guilty. And so, as I mentioned, I have a playlist. So feel free to catch yourself up here or go to that website that is provided there, and you can read all about it. And so the Avengers are calling him that during this time he was a member of the West Coast Avenger, and Hawkeye is the leader of the West Coast Avengers. And Tony says, "Hawkeye, what's up?" And Hawkeye says, "That's what we were hoping you'd tell us, pal. We were just sitting around the pool here at Avengers Compound talking about how Iron Man's been playing vigilante. Then we hear you're up and fired old Shellhead. Now, that may be fine for John Q. Public, but we happen to know you are Iron Man. What gives?" And now Tigra is there, and then this is Mockingbird. He says, "Sorry, Hawk. All I can say is that my methods may be different, but I'm doing the same thing I've always done as Avenger, taking out the bad guys. Stingray was an honest mistake. I regret it, but no one was really hurt." And Mockingbird says, "Tony, even if you can't tell us the whole story, is there any way we can help you?" And Tony says, "Thanks, Mockingbird, but I'm afraid this is my game. I have to play it one-on-one and ask you all to trust me." And Hawkeye says, "Okay, guy, I just hope you know what you're doing. Good luck." And they click out. So Tony says, "Not too painful, but I'm glad it's over." And so, and Rhodey says, "Even if you get all your armor technology out of other people's hands, won't there be records of it? Stored in computers and all? Couldn't this whole nightmare just start all over again?" And Tony says, "Only if I let it." And so they head over to Stark headquarters here. And there's Mrs. Arbogast here. And here we have Marcy. She's the head of the public relations department. And you can see on the shoulders that during the 80s, shoulder pads were a huge thing here. And Marcy says, "I'll get our opposing reply to the Times, Iron Man's editorial in the mail this afternoon." And Rhodey says, "Hey, Marcy, what is happening?" And he says, "Why don't you ask Mr. Stark, Jim? He seems to tell you more than us common folk these days." Of course, these two have been sort of on and off, and it's a sense of between Tony. And by the way, Tony's hair is like this because he had a perm that was done to him. So, and Mrs. A says, "The latest lawsuits are on your desk, sir, along with the current threat propaganda and an update on the popular anti-Iron Man slogan." So, and then of course there are the people waiting in your office, and Tony says, "Waiting, but I don't have any appointments this morning." And she goes, "These people don't need appointments, sir." and Rhodey's still trying to talk to Marcy. So they come in, and here's Nick Fury and Shield. And yes, if you're a newer, you're used to Samuel L. Jackson being Nick Fury, which is what was in the Ultimates and how it was designed by Mark Miller. But in the Prime Marvel Universe, Nick Fury was an old white guy. Although they did have it now that he had a son, and his son is black, and they've actually killed off Nick Fury, or could be. Haven't read newer Marvel comics, and so now the Nick Fury in the main Marvel universe happens to look like the Ultimates or the movie, because hey, we gotta make the comics like the movies, not the movies like the comics. It's one of my biggest griefs. So, and Nick Fury says, "Done golfing, are ya? Must be nice not having to punch in a time clock." And um, Tony says, "I might have known Shield would get into this." And so Nick says, "Iron Man has become one of the world's top crooks. That's why we're here to ask you to turn Shellhead over to us now." And of course, Nick thinks he'll refuse. That's what we brought along a court order to. And then he opens a file and says, "Here you go, Nick." And Nick wasn't expecting that. "Iron Man's gone rogue. I have no control over him whatsoever, so I'm turning over the next best thing, my complete files on Randall Pierce, the man I hired many years ago to be Iron Man." And this guy's like, "What? This is too easy." And Nick agrees here. "What's the story, Stark?" he asks. "I may have dismissed Iron Man, but people still associate him with my company. He's become a liability. Therefore, since I know Iron Man's capabilities better than anyone else, I'm offering to help capture him. I only ask one thing in return. When Pierce is in custody, his armor comes back to me. I built it. I want it back." And Nick's like, a condition. Now I believe him. So, "And what's your plan?" asked Nick. "I designed a special homing circuit into that armor. If I can get within 100 miles, I can track it. I've been able to narrow Iron Man's current activities to the East Coast. So, and Nick Fury says, "Say no more. We'll set up a command base at New York headquarters." And he says, Tony says, "I'll join you there. Good to have you on the team, Stark." And so everybody's leaving, and Rhodey thinks, "I've got like 100 questions to ask." And so Rhodey says, "Who's Randall Pierce?" And Tony says, "He's nobody. He doesn't even exist." Something like I thought, figure something like this would happen. So I had Abe Zimmer sneak some false birth and tax records into key government computers. So I need Shield to think I was on their side, so I could get inside their special Mandroid utilities, my technology. And I thought and though it isn't stolen, I designed it. I designed the Mandroids myself. I can't take a chance on somehow falling into Hammer's hands. And since Shield isn't about to turn the Mandroids over willingly, you used the Pierce scam to set it up," says Rhodey. "Sounds like you've got all the angles covered, Chief. So how come you look like someone you just stepped on your blue suede shoes?" And he says, up to this point, I've gone against bad guys, villains who deserved it. Now I'm using deception against my own allies. I keep trying to make myself feel better by telling myself that it's necessary. No one will get hurt. I just wish I could believe it." So, all right. And so they're in New York, the Twin Towers, and they notice Rhodey's wearing a gun, but they say based on your security rating, they'll let him keep it, but don't take it out. He's like, "You got it." The 80s. And so they're escorting them here to this room here with all this big stuff here. "We modified this equipment according to the instructions sent along last night." And so he says, "All right, let's see if this works." And he presses the button here. That makes sense to you, maybe. And so let me tap into SE computers and I'll explain. So it's funny. They're in New York City. Remember he said within 100 miles? Yeah, this is over 100 miles away. So he should be able to get it, but that's all right. They should have said 500 or something like that. Um, so anyway, he says, "Hey, this is the location of a summer home I used to own, but got back." And so he says, "Send the Mandroids there." And Nick agrees, and he says, with 100 or so uniformed agents to back him up. And Tony's like, "No, just the Mandroids. It would be easy for unprotected men to get killed." And Nick says, "Thanks for the advice, Stark, but the decision is mine, and I made it. We move at dawn." So, all right. So here they just kind of just have a little talk, and he's gonna go on a dinner date. We're just gonna, but it's kind of funny, the Trump Tower here, and he's like, "Hey, I used to own a whole floor until," and then beep 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 beep. So it's kind of funny here. Donald Trump was quite uh quite a figure in the 1980s. So he calls her a taxi and leaves, and they're gonna head over to do what they have to do. And um, he calls in and says we're in position. They're getting the Mandroids ready, and off they go. Love the screen tone, and as always, Bob Layton takes a little bit out to create those three dots of his, a little bit of screen tones here, and so these things come out, which takes out a couple of them, but not all of them. And so they're gonna blast down to make sure none of them, the rest, get taken down. There's three left, only two went down, and Tony's putting on the armor. He's like, "Man, I was hoping more than that." And so he's gonna go and take care of the rest. Nick's talking to him, but he's able to continue talking. He thinks he's in the helicopter, which is kind of funny because he leaves through it. So it's surprising nobody's looking at that, but that's all right. It's comic books. Let's not overthink it. And so Iron Man's coming from behind. I love this panel here. And he fires, hits this guy here who goes by the tree. He'll be back. And he's going to try to take on the other two here. So this one grabs it. Tony gets him out here. He goes through this garage, comes out, throws the SUV at him. Iron Man is able to go under it. He's going to throw... or maybe it's the same one. I think it just got Nope. This one is a different one. So he must have found another one in there. And again, you can see the little three dots in there. This one makes contact, and so the two of them hit him. He is he's going to use his thing to siphon off energy here, and he goes and puts the thing on this one, so this one is now out of commission, and so he's gonna go for the next one and hit him, and then after he knocks him out, put the thing out. But remember, there's one left, and so, but now he's surrounded by regular people, not just the Mandroids, so he's gonna use the sonic things to kind of get everybody out. And he's gonna walk to this one, and this one is gonna request permission to abort. So off he goes, gets the thing, puts it on, and does the thing to disable it. I don't. They explained it in one of the earlier ones. I still don't think that's possible because it's in there. All you have to do is just open them up. I understand it's a really cool story, and in a comic world, sort of believable, but we all know that that's not how it works. But all right, so he's leaving, and so a short time later, Nick Fury says, "Shellheads seem to know exactly what we had planned, Stark. I don't suppose your loyalties could be a little less solid than you put on." And Tony says, "I don't like what you're insinuating, Nick, not one bit. Iron Man did seem to have advanced knowledge of your raid, but I certainly had nothing to do with it. Now, if you're through making accusations, I suggest we check the scanner to see if we can pick up his location again." That's odd. Even if he's out of range, I should get a trace reading unless he deactivated the homing circuit. But how could he know about? And then he goes, and then this thing comes off. Nice. You should have Stark Enterprise build your machines, Nick. At least the control knobs wouldn't fall off. And then he picks it up. Wait a minute, this isn't a real knob. It held on with glue and inside wires. It's a bug. That's how Iron Man knew about the raid and the homing circuit. Pierce must have infiltrated and planted the bug on your own headquarters. I don't believe this. Next time I want to deal with a top security organization, Fury, I'll call the Boy Scout. And Rhodey's like, excuse us. So, um, he took the heat off. So it it worked, and Tony feels real guilty about it. And so we get to the last page, and we have our epilogue here. And it says here, days later at Stark Enterprises, Mrs. A says, Mr. Rogers here for his appointment. Send him in. So we got Steve Rogers, who is no longer Captain America. He's the captain. I have a playlist covering what's going on with Captain America as he was replaced with John Walker. Feel free to check that out as well. And they talk for a little bit, and he is saying that although he's not Captain America, he's not going to stop fighting to protect the United States, and he needs a new shield and wonders if he can help. And he's like, my next target is a government installation. If Steve so obligated to me, he might think twice about interfering. That's good strategy, smart strategy. So why do I feel so slimy, he thinks. He says, I'm always happy to help a friend, Steve. Why don't we go take a look at your new shield? Next, who guards the guardsmen? So, oh my goodness. So we are fully in the Stark Wars. And things are getting really, really good here. So, all right. Iron Man 227 by David Michelinie, Mark Bright, and Bob Layton. Like and subscribe, and I do thank you for listening. Goodbye.